Hello everyone, I'm the FC and this is Blue Lines TV. Welcome to another Chelsea discussion video. I'm with my guest Joe Tweedy. Joe, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi guys, Joe Tweedy. Hopefully people know me by now, so ready to
They
have a
should.
chat about
Yeah,
the
by
weekend.
now you should know. But yeah, you guys, today we're going to be talking about Sarriball. We're going to be talking about that game against Arsenal, and we're going to be talking about Bakayoko and Ruben Loftus-Cheek as well. But of course, I think maybe the best place to start from is that 3-2 win over Arsenal. Now, I felt confident from the start we were going to get a win against Arsenal. I kind of felt that tactically we had the advantage, and I mean, to be honest, that's the thing that really excites me the most, that we have this tactical advantage over opposition teams. And I felt last season under Conte, we were at that tactical disadvantage where, when you've got teams like Watford and Bournemouth thinking their best bet is to press high against us and win the ball on our own half and play with a high line, that should tell you immediately that they're playing with no fear. And clubs like this should always be having fear in the back of their heads. Or back of their minds. What the hell did I say? Back of their heads.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, I think the main thing that we're seeing with Sarri at the moment, particularly over the last couple of games, and I know it's very early in the season and you shouldn't really be taking much from like average possession and passes, but there is a clear directive that he is giving the players to sort of obviously play on the front foot to demand more of the ball, to be more of a possession-based team. I think now that we're playing Huddersfield and Arsenal, it's quite a good contrast where you've got a team who probably traditionally would sit back against Chelsea, would be quite defensive, and then obviously you've got Arsenal, who are probably a fairly similar level to us in terms of their, I suppose, they obviously have a new coach, they're trying to learn a new system tactically. I think it's quite a good comparison to look at us compared to where we were sort of in the pre-season game with them a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, I mean, I can just see tactically now that we're going into games. I feel, maybe this is just a slight bias compared to last season, but the players look to me like tangibly like they're more confident in terms of what's being asked of them, and I think you can kind of see that, particularly sort of that first sort of half an hour period, that just they were just so good for such a for such a short period of time. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how that's going to translate to 90-minute period over a game. But I felt particularly, there was definitely elements of that first sort of maybe 20-30 minutes where we were fantastic. Obviously, there was a slight dip in levels where Arsenal came back into the game. But I felt, again, second half, it was really controlled. And again, when do we dominate possession that much against an Arsenal team in the last 10-15 years? It's not something that you see regularly. And I would also say, just to sort of finish off the tactical point, is that, this is a team that Conte won once out of 8 games against in his 2 seasons in charge.
Yes.
And again, it's not a huge dig at Conte, but
it should be.
I'm just thinking when Arsene Wenger is figuring you out tactically, then okay, different manager, whatever, but fairly similar style in terms of how Arsenal were playing.
Yeah.
But sorry, I felt pretty much had the measure of them.
Yeah, you're right, and this is what I was saying too, linking on to your final point you made too in regards to that tactical disadvantage we had under Antonio Conte. I mean, Arsenal always won the battle of the flanks against us. Bellerin always gave Alonso a tour of time. They were able to win that midfield battle because they had more men forward in our own half. And we always really struggled against them. That's down to the poor system and the poor tactics. And I think that with Sarri, Uncle Sarri, this guy with a system that complements the players we do have. I mean, oh my God. I mean, I could go on. I mean, I've already watched the game twice already again. That's how much I loved it. And I've got a tactical video coming out tomorrow comparing Conte and Sarri styles. And I think, the game against Arsenal is a great comparison video to use for it. And yeah, I mean, there's so many points. I don't even know where to start from. I'm looking at Jorginho. I mean, this guy is like, he's the voice of Sarri on the pitch. And when I watched him play in the stadium, and sometimes you guys, when you watch it on TV, you don't get those right angles. So you never see the runs the player makes or, the positions he gets himself into, because that's how you can really see the intelligence of a player. And looking at Jorginho, that one underrated thing that I don't think many people pick up is the fact that he's normally dictating when the team actually start the press. I mean, for example, did you notice yourself too how many times he'd break the midfield lines and be ahead of guys like, Barkley or Kante to start that press? And he was constantly telling the teams anytime the team was starting to, not press as hard or they lacked intensity. He was always there to tell these guys, no, push up, press on, keep working. And I think he's an amazing midfield player to have. And I really think that if this guy wasn't in our midfield, it would take much, much longer for Sarriball to actually work.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to think, I mean, at least for maybe the past couple of games, a sort of a comparison to make. And I think when I think of how he is as a player and sort of the link to the coach, I mean, I have to sort of look at Xavi and Guardiola. You know? I mean, Barcelona were kind of blessed in that they had a lot of intelligent footballers in that midfield, but I think Xavi was kind of the orchestrator at his absolute peak under Guardiola. And I think Jorginho, although they obviously play slightly different roles, he is without question the football brain of this sort of new Chelsea side, and you can see every movement that he coordinates, whether it's pressing, whether it's attacking moves with the ball, whether it's anything like from lateral movement to you know playing passes and encouraging other players to move forward. I think everything you're seeing is coming through him, and he plays this almost like a conductor role. And I think actually, the more I think about it, he does remind me quite a bit of Andrea Pirlo when he was at Juventus in terms of maybe again playing styles. I would say that they're slightly different, but Pirlo was very much an orchestrator, telling people where to go. You know, Pirlo absolutely zero pace in midfield, but he was very rarely out of position because he could kind of conduct things and move sort of kind of the chess pieces around the board as he saw fit. And I really see that with Jorginho, and I think his pass for the first goal, or for Pedro's goal, was absolutely exceptional. I don't think really it was really given the kind of enough praise credit. That necessarily exactly. Right. You know, he made it look like a 10-yard pass. You know, it was absolutely exceptional. And it's not only the vision, but I think again, you see a lot of players try these kind of Hollywood-esque passes. But to have the skill or the weight of the pass, everything that to enable Pedro to come through and finish. I think it was such an underrated ball, and yet it seems to be something that he can do virtually every single game. I think there's a reason why, even though he is an incredibly deep-lying midfielder, that this guy does create a lot of chances, that he does have the ability to add quite a few assists to his game, because his range of passing and his vision and his actually ability to find the pass, the weight of the pass, everything in terms of his technical ability is I think you're right. When you see it live, when you see it in person, you appreciate it to a whole different level, because again, even on the television, it didn't look to me like, I was like, what's he doing? There's not really a pass on, and then bang, he plays the ball and Pedro's in. So it's kind of like an innate ability that he's got. But the more I look at him, I think not only obviously a great signing for Chelsea, but I mean I look at Guardiola and I think what would Guardiola have done with him at the base of their midfield? So I'm pretty happy that he's a Chelsea player, and I think there will be some concerns maybe defensively about him, but I think that's probably more to do with kind of the shape and learning kind of the patterns and the positional stuff at the moment. There are people are saying he should be maybe a bit better or a bit more, maybe defensively sound when defending.
I mean, they don't understand.
But that's the thing. It's 2 games in to a Premier League season, and I think the one thing I'd say, and maybe someone will kind of look into maybe in another video or a bit later, but Sarri's team defensively were fantastic. But it takes time to get to that point where every kind of piece on the chessboard for Sarri is working in harmony and it's in unison, and we're talking sort of yards of space here that makes such a massive difference to where someone cuts out a pass or they miss the ball and someone has a shot. So I think once we get maybe probably talk about it a bit later, but Kovacic into the system, Kovacic, Jorginho, Kante. I mean that's for me is a midfield trio that I think is going to enable Jorginho to not have to constantly be sort of worrying about space to his left, which I think is one of the main things that you've seen with him defensively. If you're going to say that there's been a weakness in his game, I use sort of air quotes on weakness. It's that kind of that sort of space behind him when crosses are coming in, because I think maybe he's anticipating some more support there. But I think that on the grand scheme of things, I think what he's added in terms of positives have infinitely outweighed any 100%, negatives.
100%. And that last point you made about obviously the space and behind, with how we're defending as a team now, it's all about our pressing. So basically, how I see it is, whenever Jorginho is exposed, that means that our pressing's been poor in the opposition half, because we shouldn't be allowing teams to create those types of opportunities. And I think, number one, with Kovacic, this guy, I mean, of course, he's just infinitely better than Ross Barkley. A lot of people think I'm very harsh. I don't have anything. Again, you guys, I keep saying it. I'm not 5 years old. I don't have any vendettas against players. I'm a grown man, for God's sake. I'm not about that type of stuff. But I'm just saying that with Barkley, I have to be critical because, again, you guys know I've got a very high expectation for my club. We're Chelsea, we're not Crystal Palace. We're not Tottenham. We've got high standards. And we should keep them high because we want to challenge to be one of the best teams in the world. That's the whole point of all of this. And with someone like Ross Barkley, I feel that he just wasn't of that sufficient quality. I mean, a lot of times, again, when I was watching the game, I noticed the amount of times, Jorginho would be saying, Ross, no, you should be here. You shouldn't be there. Louise saying, Ross, what are you doing? You should be here. You shouldn't be there. And he's got this constant communication. And it made me realise two things. I think with Barkley, I think number one, it's definitely a confidence thing. Because, again, I think I feel that his first touch is better. I think that, when it comes to playing those safe back passes, he can easily do that. But anytime it comes to receiving the ball and turning, that's one thing I see him struggling with a lot. And I'm thinking, that's not good. He doesn't have that ability where he can beat a press. When someone's on him, closing him down, so far it's been 9 times out of 10 Ross Barkley's lost the ball, and that's not good enough for that number 8 guy in Sarri's system. And I think with Kovacic, I mean, on 30 minutes, this guy played 30 minutes was all it took. I think he clocked in the same amount of passes as Barkley, 100% pass completion, all types of passes, forward passes as well. The guy had that ability to beat the press, his dribbling. So I love those top players that dribble with their feet and they don't use their body or their pace to try and beat a man. And just that link up, I kept stressing. When Hazard and Mata used to play together.
Yeah.
Hazard finally has his man in Kovacic. It's going to be very exciting and fun to watch them this season. And I think that with this guy in our midfield, I think we've got one of the best midfields definitely in the country. I think that this midfield already, we've clocked the most passes in the league. I think it's 1,300 and something. I think Man City are close, but I think we've got like 50 or 60 more passes. But again, this is a Man City team in their 3rd season under Guardiola.
Yeah.
This is Sarri's first 2 games in the Premier League. Yeah. So, I mean, the levels to this stuff. And it's just, the excitement. I've never been so excited. Like, you don't understand. Normally, I'm always moaning to my dad inside the stadium about this or about that. I didn't have anything to moan about. He had to tell me to shut up afterwards because I kept going on about how amazing the football was. And and I think Sarriball has other effects as well. I mean, when I saw my girlfriend afterwards, we probably had the best night we ever had. And I think that's 1,000% down to Sarriball. So he's definitely got me perked up. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really follow that up with much, but I will. I mean, I think that the Barkley stuff is interesting, and I think the way that you can kind of juxtapose the Kovacic kind of cameo with Barkley. I think you can see, as you're saying, it's not dismissive of Barkley's qualities. I just think Kovacic is an incredibly talented player. I don't think I mean, again, it's not really a massive disservice to him that he can't get into a midfield that's got Luka Modric and Toni Kroos. I mean, they're maybe 2 out of the top 3 central midfielders in the world. It's not, it's not like he can't get in a midfield ahead of, I don't know, Jason Pumpkin or some random guy who's playing central midfield. But I think with Barkley, the more that I'm seeing him, I think that he reminds me quite a lot of Solomon Kalou in that he has a lot of incredible natural talent, but when he is tasked with thinking about stuff, you can see when he receives the ball, it's not that natural. As you say, I think he's incredibly talented. But when the ball comes into him, it's kind of like you can almost see the cogs turning in his head. And I think the criticism of him from managers and coaches in the past has been that his football IQ, his ability to pick up stuff, has been quite low. And I think that he's over processing the information. So when the ball comes to him, he's thinking, okay, am I meant to flip this around the corner? Am I meant to turn? Am I meant to do this? I think that's why we're seeing him not only kind of lose possession or kind of get caught out a bit, but I just think that he is maybe half a step, a yard behind the rest of the team, particularly in midfield. Now, I just think that comes from the fact that a little bit like Kalou could score the most outrageous goal when he had half a second, but give him a one-on-one with 5 minutes, to score. That it was going to go wide or the goalkeeper was going to save it. I think with Barkley, he's almost a midfield equivalent. That if you give him no time, he's got that nice footwork. He can get out of trouble. He can play some nice passes, but now when you've got Jorginho in the team, because he plays the game at a much higher pace than I imagine a lot of players are used to, he's getting the ball in a bit more space, and it looks like on occasions that he just doesn't really know what he's meant to be doing. And hopefully it's something that adjusts, because I think he's going to be a pretty good addition to the squad. But I think his success at the club will kind of depend on how well he adapts. And how I think for him it's not to do with confidence per se. I think it's more to do with his mental ability to do what Sarri wants him to do. And if he can adjust that level of his game, I think he's going to be I think he'll be a very good squad member. I don't think he'll play over Kovacic, but people are saying that you're taking kind of shots at him for no real reason. I think it's just a fair assessment, and I think it's probably easy for people to process that opinion now that they've seen Kovacic play in the same spot, because you can see just how much more fluid the team are going forward, and even without the ball, I think that you can see the level of that midfield go up maybe 1 or 2 levels.
You're right. I mean, when he came on, I think he won 2 or 3 tackles on top of that as well.
He's built like a middleweight boxer. He's very, very stocky. He's very I think he's quite a powerful player, and I don't think you really lose anything defensively by having him in there.
No,
plus,
you don't.
I just think he's super talented. So
yeah, I mean, he's. I think if there's one. Maybe once. Actually, I can't even say weakness. I'm going to say observation. One observation I realised was the fact that, Kovacic, I know it's only his first 30 minutes, but I mean, the thing about him has been he doesn't really have that goal threat in a sense.
Yeah.
I think playing in this position, naturally, he'll get in those positions where he can obviously, take more strikes and goal and affect the goal. That's what we want to see, because let's be serious. It wasn't as if Hamsik was getting, 15, 20 goals a season, but
yeah,
he contributes. And as I'm stressing too, just because, whatever Napoli did, we want to do better. And Napoli, they ended up losing the league by a few points to Juventus. Let's say that difference was maybe, Hamsik scoring 5 goals less, or Callejon not scoring enough goals. It's obviously goals win you games. And that's how I see it. And I think that as the season goes on, I'm hoping to see a goal threat in Kovacic. I'd like him to try and affect the goal, take shots, etc., etc., not just overplay. I felt in the second half, even though the link-up play was amazing between him and Hazard, I felt at times maybe we slightly overplayed a bit more. I mean,
I would agree,
in that sense, it was good because, again, we really forced Arsenal back, which I like to see us doing against teams, to be honest. It's been many years since that's happened. But again, we're not at 100% Sarriball just yet. It's going to get even better in the future. And I think that's maybe one development that we want to see in the team that is going to improve and is going to get better.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. And I think, again, when Hazard came on as well, I think we could see sort of the beginnings of a relationship on that left-hand side of the pitch. And, it's, again, I think the fact that there's so many positive aspects, particularly attacking, from where we were last season, where we were playing, we playing like Bournemouth, and we could have played for 6 days and we didn't look like scoring against them. Now I think, we're looking more threatening. I think the 3 goals scored against Arsenal. I think again, we did actually have some pretty good chances, or we were in positions to actually push ahead and actually score some more goals. So I just find, particularly going forward, I think there's more of a cutting kind of edge to the side now. I think with Hazard, he actually looks like he's enjoying himself, and I know that he's still coming into the fitness and whatever. He's still a bit of the chunky Hazard, but they can't handle chunky Hazard. So I mean, when he's fully up to speed, he's going to be a problem, particularly in this system. And
the guy's got 2 assists already, and he's only played 60 minutes of football.
I think it's half of last season's assist total already in the first 2 games. So I think he got 4 assists last year.
Yeah.
So if that's not an indication of potentially where he's played an hour of football. I don't know how much he's even played.
Like an hour. Like an hour of football or less.
So I mean, if this is the Hazard that we're going to get, the one that is constantly assisting, constantly. I mean, again, I think the criticism that people have had of Hazard is that for me, he's been the main man for a while, but those definitive moments, I think we're seeing the assist for the goal. I mean, it was incredible place to play, and not only that, we've seen us overhit crosses, and it was such an intelligent little cutback as well. That if Hazard now starts getting this kind of decisiveness into his game, I mean, he's going to go from one of the world's best players to just incredible. I mean, I'm really excited to see him develop.
And for example, the 2 assists he's gotten so far have been those cutback crosses. And as I keep telling people, expect us to score a lot of that type of goal this season.
Yeah.
But then cast your minds back to under Conte. How many times was Hazard outright on the left, trying to put in those same crosses, and it was never going anywhere. There were never enough men inside the box. Or it was always hitting the first man, or the third man, second man. Actually, that's what I mean.
I think,
and now you're seeing that
contrast. I think just to jump in on that point there is that our left back is in like the 6-yard box trying to score a goal. Yeah. From a cross from a left wing. I mean, that to me suggests that it's not. And again, he's not playing left wing back where you expect him to kind of be in that position. He is playing as a very not standard left back, but I mean he is an actual left back, and the fact that they're still getting in there. And you can see it, even when we scored the goal, we had 4 or 5 players in the box. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. When was that? When was that? A thing last season? It was really just. I think in some games we were speaking last season. It was just Morata and Hazard were like the only players forward. So different mentality. But I think obviously no one is going to turn the noses up at 3 points against Arsenal. Particularly, they have become a bit of a bogey side, particularly under Conte.
But yeah, that last point too, in regards to Marcos Alonso, I have to say, it's probably the best offensive performance I have seen from Marcos Alonso. Now, people think, because you score goals, it means that you're great going forward. No, it doesn't mean you're great going forward. Conte's system meant that Alonso was able to make those runs inside the box. Obviously, he is 6 foot. He does have an aerial presence, so it is going to make sense. But that game against Arsenal, I was seeing Marcos Alonso attacking the spaces, getting to the byline, constantly trying to make that overlapping run as well. And we know he's not the fastest, but I mean, I thought from an offensive capacity, I thought the guy was actually really, really good. That's been the biggest thing I've always been critical of with Marcos Alonso. I've always felt his distribution in the final thirds never really been good enough, or when it comes to making the runs and stuff, it's never been there. But it's looking like the team have definitely been training a lot under Sarri in this regards. It looks like Alonso is more comfortable. And again, even though he was exposed at times, I'm not really going to blame it down to his individual ability for those moments against Bellerin. I think it's a team collective effort. Again, as Sarri himself actually said, the team stopped pressing for that period. And that was how Arsenal were able to get Bellerin into the game, because he was really their main outlet throughout that entire game. And I think that, when it comes to that back four, it's going to take us a while for the players to really understand the system and their positions they need to be in, etc., etc. I mean, we know that's one thing that Sarri always works on a lot during training is that back four. And actually, again, another underrated aspect that wasn't spoken about during the game was the fact that our offside trap was working pretty well against Arsenal. Aubameyang was constantly offside all the time, and there was a few times when their fullbacks or wingers were offside as well. And I think that that's one thing Sarri does with his teams. He likes them to, play the offside trap, and that was good to see. And it just gets me thinking that I was talking about us needing maybe 6-7 games. I think we only need half that. I think maybe in 2 or 3 more games we're done then.
I think that the key one will be when we play City in a couple of weeks' time. So for me, I mean, it's 4 or 5 games I think till we play City, or 6, something like that. I mean, it's a fair distance away. So I think that run up to City is going to give us a pretty decent kind of, at least a decent kind of platform to practice and implement some of these ideas. And speaking particularly with the back four, I mean, I think the only real concern that you have so far probably is, I think again maybe something that we would have spoken about in pre-season if we were going to have Azpilicueta and Alonso as fullbacks, is that kind of one-on-one defending, particularly that they're a little bit more isolated now. They're a little bit left to their own devices, particularly because there's not an extra centre-back in there to cover some of the space. I think it's probably becoming quite apparent, at least to me, that we maybe need to invest in that area. And I think maybe not so much in terms of a technical ability, but I just think that we do lack a bit of pace in that back line, particularly if you're going to play the high line. And again, it's just it's a very basic question, or a very basic point, I should say. It's not going down the whole sort of pace and power route, but if you want to play a high line, you do need at least 2 or 3 complete burners in that back four who have got that electric pace. And Rudiger's fine; he has the recovery speed. But I think when we see Alonso get exposed 1-on-1, when we see him under duress. It's not to do with him being a bad footballer. He just doesn't have the athleticism that you would want, maybe of a left back to cover that sort of ground. And you're right, when he's getting forward. I think we saw, might have been in the Community Shield game, that he does struggle to get back into position. And
really does.
And it's again, it's not a dig on him as a player. It's just, you can just tell that's not his. It's not how he's built to play fullback. So, I mean, I think that there's going to be some sort of adjustments that Sarri will make. I don't think that we can continue maybe exposing Alonso and Azpilicueta to the sort of extent that they have been so far. But apart from that, I mean, I think Luiz has been surprising in terms of that he's had a little bit of a renaissance again. I think maybe obviously the stuff that happened with Conte has gone under the carpet. I think he's actually been quite sneakily good.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're 100% right. And this is one thing I've been a bit confused about. I've been seeing people, critiquing Luiz's performances, thinking, for some reason, he's always going to be seen as a guy that has a mistake in him. Even though, if you really think about it, when was the last time he made a massive mistake during a game? I mean, I can't remember over these past few years. But I mean, this guy's been very good, and a lot of people seem to think that maybe Christensen should just be replacing him out of the team. Even though I think Christensen's a fantastic player, I've always felt that Luiz is our best defender. I think, again, there was another great thing that Luiz kept doing a lot. I mean, of course, with Arsenal, I knew that they were hoping to use Aubameyang and Bellerin as the outlet. We saw that Aubameyang was playing between Alonso and David Luiz. Now, with Luiz, he can't do a race against Aubameyang, because Aubameyang will beat him every single time. But it was his positioning. He was blocking off the channels, getting in the right positions to not allow Aubameyang to use his pace.
Yeah.
And I felt that he did a very, very good job at doing that. I don't know why no one picked up on it. Sometimes when you defend, and this is one thing I love about Christensen, when you defend, it's not all about winning a 50-50 or winning a header. It's about the positions you get yourself into as well. And I think that Luiz has been doing very good at that. And you probably have nothing to add to that. Just moving on to Aspie, I think Aspie is another interesting one because, what's your thoughts on Aspie so far from what you've seen? I mean, I'm not going to be too critical just yet because I need to see him play a few more games as a fullback. But I mean, from your initial impressions, what are you thinking?
If it was any other player than Azpilicueta and he was putting the same performances, I think I'd be quite disappointed. But I think with Azpilicueta, he does get a bit of a pass because, I think in him there is obviously there's a very good player in there, but I don't know. I mean, again, I'm looking sort of at the fullbacks and thinking back to kind of Sarri's Napoli, and there has to be a bit more of attacking kind of cut and thrust, I think, from the right back position, because Pedro in particular, if he's playing right wing, you can see that he still likes coming into those inside forward channels, leaves a huge space for someone to overlap, and whether Azpilicueta is the guy that you want kind of attacking in the final third.
Yeah.
For me, again, not being critical of him as a player, that's never really been his strength. Even when he came to the club as a right back, he was never the greatest attacking right back that we've seen. And
no, you're right.
He's very tidy. I think he has kind of a little bit like Alonso. I think they are maybe a little bit isolated at times defensively.
Yeah.
But I think it's just for me going forward. I don't see enough, and whether it's because he's primarily been playing left back and he's been playing centre back and he hasn't really played right back for a long period of time. I think he can adjust. I mean, we always forget that he used to be a winger, so there is something in there that potentially can be reignited. But I think at the moment, the kind of safe and steady player that he's reminding me a little bit of Paulo Ferreira, in that I know that he's not really going to mess anything up.
You're actually right. Yeah. That is a great comparison. I mean, of course, playing on the right hand side, Sarri likes his fullback on the right to play a more supportive role. But there's no way in hell I think Sarri's expecting Aspie to be as conservative as he's been doing. I think the amount of times where he's always a yard behind the play, and it's just like there's so much space down that right hand side that at times you do have to take your initiative. You can't be too conservative with your play, and it's just like so many unnecessary backwards passes, I feel. And it brings up interesting questions. I still can't personally understand why Moses isn't seen as a fullback anymore. That's what I don't know. I still can't get over that one. I just don't understand it. I think Moses would actually be pretty great as a fullback in this system in particular. I mean, the guy can keep the ball. He can, if someone runs at him, he can beat the press and he can still maintain possession. And I think that his ability you can leave him isolated out wide, and because he used to be a winger, I mean, he's able to beat his man and still maintain possession. I think that could really help transform how we do things. I don't know, it seems like he seems Zappa Costa as the answer, which, again, I'm a bit confused by that. No Emerson on the bench. He hasn't been on the bench for the past few games as well. I'm guessing maybe we're going to see him for a cup game or Europa League or something, which is a bit disappointing in that sense. But, I mean, I think with Aspie, I'll give him some more time. Maybe he might need some more confidence getting used to a new system before he starts getting back to that. I mean, I don't want to be too critical, but he's definitely going to be someone that I'm going to be like analysing even more and really hoping that I see an improvement in his play. But I think if anything, what other players stood out for you in that game, or any tactical things that stood out for you?
Okay, so I mean, I think when I look at players, at least that are interesting to me at the moment, I think I'm looking really at sort of Alvaro Morata. I think the goal he scored was really well taken. But I mean, if you were to take that out of the equation, for what I'm expecting to maybe see kind of from a centre forward, I still don't see that he's really kind of adapting to the system. He kind of feels a little bit like a ghost at times to me. And when you see him score a goal in such a kind of fantastic fashion as he did, great piece of skill, nice turn, good finish, and then he just exists up front, and it's not like Arsenal have got a really kind of top tier sort of central defensive pairing, and I don't really know how he's going to be used for sort of the rest of the season, because he's not kind of your typical kind of Sarri poacher like it's like a Higuain who's going to just bag goals in the penalty area. He's not really that kind of player. I think you could kind of see from Marcos Alonso's goal that would be where I would expect a centre forward to have been on that, anticipating that cross. And he's not really that kind of player. We're not really playing that direct this season. So you kind of question, right. I'm struggling to see a little bit where he kind of fits just in the long term picture. I'm not sort of looking too much at these games in isolation, but just sort of the style of what we're playing. These sort of cutback crosses, this kind of very intricate football that we're starting to play. Yeah. He got put through on goal, and as I said, it was a fantastic finish. But I mean, if you take the goal away, and again, it's a goal's a goal, and I'm never going to take that away from him. But just the kind of performance, I'm looking at him and just thinking like I need to see a bit more from him in lots of different areas. I think he's kind of treading water a bit at the moment, and I want him to do well, because he's going to be here for the rest of the season. So there's no point sort of pushing him away and writing him off. I want him to do well. I want him to be better, but I'm struggling to see what he's adding to the team. Like, I don't want to make the comparison, but I mean, Diego Costa in the Super Cup, unplayable. And again, people can debate about Costa all they want, but even Costa at his very worst was at least occupying back fours, and he was a nuisance. Even if he wasn't scoring, people, he dropped off in the second part of the season. Whatever.
You're right.
You ask any opposition fan who they'd rather play up front: Costa, when they know he's not going to score, but he's still going to be a pest, or Morata, who is a little bit wishy-washy. And
No, you're right. And with Costa too, when any time he was dispossessed or he did fall on the floor, he'd win a free kick.
Yeah, exactly.
And with Morata, it's not a free kick; it's just losing possession all the time.
Yeah.
So